our Power Platform course. So this is going to be our first module for the course in which we will be introducing what exactly the Power Platform is. So with this module, we will be able to learn about the Power Platform and its associated components and the features. We will also learn about how we are going to get started with the Power Platform interface with the environment creation. And towards the end of this module, we will learn about how an environment is created. And once after the environment is ready, we are going to create the solution as well. So let's get started with the Power Platform's introduction first. So if you want to know what exactly the Power Platform is, so we can define Power Platform as a low code, or I would say a no code platform that is going to help the users in creating some business applications and automating their regular business processes and even analyzing the data. It is a complete suite of tools which is going to span not only just Office 365, Dynamics 365, but also going to cover some of the standalone applications as well. It is designed as a low code platform, or I would say a no code platform. So, due to this functionality, it can be used by anyone or everyone in the organization, be it the people coming from some coding background or the people who are having a no code background or the people who are completely the non technical people in the organization. So, Power Platform in general, we can say that helps us or helps the business organizations in acting over the data using the business applications that we are going to create, automating the data using the workflows that we are able to create here, and also analyzing the data with the help of the reports or the visuals that we are going to create using one of the tool under it. So now let's try to learn about the Power Platform a little more in detail. So if we just look into this picture over the screen, this explains us the overall Power Platform's ecosystem, which is where we can see it contains four different components under it, or I could say four different key pillars to it. The first one we have as Power BI, then we have Power Apps, third we have Power Automate, and then lastly mention is Power Virtual Agent, which is nowadays being also called as Copilot. Apart from these four important components of the Power Platform, we do also have three important features to it as well that makes it a much more versatile platform to be used in the business organizations. And these features are ultimately enhancing or advancing the overall functionalities of the apps and also the workflows that we are creating using the Power Platform components. These are data connectors, AI Builder, and Common Data Services. However, Common Data Service is now renamed as Microsoft Dataverse. So we will definitely discuss about each one of them in detail as we are going to move forward in the course. So let's first start with our discussion about the Power Platform components. So starting with Power Automate. So Power Automate is an automation tool, I would say a cloud automation tool that lets the business users create some workflows that can help us to reduce our manual work and reduce our job that was time consuming by automating the process for all the repetitive tasks in our day to day work life. Power Automate is a part of the Power Platform umbrella. So it is also a low code platform, or I could say no code platform, that is something can give us the interface where one by one we can insert the steps to the flow, and that will get automatically invoked, or that will get automatically mm, called upon the moment some schedule will occur or some kind of trigger is going to happen. So like, let's say for an example, say in our organization we are dealing with ample amount of customers on a daily basis, and now we have assigned one of the person from our team to send some promotional emails every day at 8 a.m. to all the gold customers of the organization. Now, it could be possible that the gold customer list might contain hundreds or thousands of people in it. Now, to send the promotional emails every day exactly at the 8 a.m. time schedule might be a time consuming task, or it could be a monotonous job to perform. So, rather than relying on some human workforce to do this task, do this repetitive task and a time consuming task, we can use Power Automate to create an automated flow that will be running on a time schedule. And the moment the clock will hit 8 a.m., automatically the flow will start running and the emails will be sent to the specified group of people. So this is just a one scenario that I have tried to explain where exactly Power Automate fits in. But there could be multiple other scenarios as well that we face in our business work life, and we feel like that we should have some kind of automation running for doing such repetitive tasks. So that is the reason nowadays organizations have actively started to adapt this Power Automate tool in their work life, so that they can focus on much more other important tasks that is requiring some more human attention, rather than indulging and consuming more time on such a repetitive or task that can be very well automated. So that's the first component of the Power Platform. Now let's move towards the introduction for the second important component for the Power Platform, that is Power App. Now, as the name suggests, Power Apps is a tool that is going to help the business organizations in developing some business applications that they might be needing for their some process completion. So if I need to define Power Apps, so I can just say that it is a low code or a no code application development platform, or I would say business application development platform, that can help the organizations in creating the apps that can also be accessed through web, or it could be accessed through the mobile devices. So with minimal coding expertise, we can create some simple to complex applications that can be used internally in the organization. However, we will definitely talk about where these Power Apps are going to fit in, and why do we actually require such applications. What could be the scenarios where Power Apps needs to be created in the business. in detail as we are going to move towards the later sections of the course. But as of now, we can just understand that it is the platform through which we are developing the apps within few minutes. Also, in Power Platform, we can create two different types of application using Power Apps. The first one, the Canvas apps, and the second one is the model driven app. Both of them are going to be created in the different business scenarios. We will definitely discuss about the differences between both of them as we approach towards the end of this module. With this, let's move towards the introduction to the third component of the Power Platform, that is Power BI. And here, BI stands for Business Intelligence. So I can define Power BI as the analytical leg of the Power Platform. That means it is a tool provided under this Power Platform umbrella so as to create some interactive reports and dashboards that will help us in getting the complete insights of the business data. It is a data visualization tool or a data analysis tool that can give the idea about how our businesses are doing in the market. And based on the information that we are going to get through those reports, we can make some informed decisions in the organizations so that the overall performance could be improved and we are able to compete with our competitors precisely. With this report that we are going to create using Power BI, we can connect with variety of the data sources that are available. And on top of that, we can develop our reports. I could say that even it's not just in the Power BI. It's also with the other tools or the other components that we have discussed about Power Platform, be it your Power Automate, your Power Apps, or even your Power BI. You will be having this functionality or an advantage of connecting with the variety of data sources, whether it's on cloud or on the premises. You will be able to develop an app on top of that. You can run some automation running over that data service, or even a report could be created. So that's a very good feature that we are getting under this Power Platform, making it one of the very good platform or an ecosystem now being adapted in multiple industry verticals. Now, after Power BI, if we move towards the last component or the fourth component of the Power Platform, that is Power Virtual Agent. Now, Power Virtual Agent is a tool that will let the business organizations create some interactive and customized chatbots for their organization that can be deployed in their organization's portal, their Microsoft Teams channel, and various other different places. Now, when we hear the term chatbots or virtual agent, the very first thing that is going to come in our mind is that we might be requiring the people who have the coding knowledge or the people who do have an experience in machine learning algorithms or natural language processing techniques. But with the help of Power Virtual Agent, we don't really require them. It is something that is going to provide us with a no code graphical interface wherein we can create our customizable chatbots that can handle the conversations much precisely. And also, whenever it is required to hand over the conversation to some live human agent. So that can also be possible using the agents created under this Power Virtual Agent tool. So that's a very good, I would say, tool provided in Power Platform, which is nowadays providing the organizations to indulge with their customers by providing them some self-service support using the chatbots embedded in the company portals or the channels with which they are connecting with their customers. And like I mentioned previously as well, recently Microsoft have tried to, change the name of this to Copilot. So nowadays, that Copilot is also very well being used in the organizations with the development of the further AI tools. So that was about the four different components that we get in Power Platform. Now that we know a little about each of these, now let's discuss something about the few features of the Power Platform as well. So, starting with the feature AI Builder. So, AI Builder is, as the name suggests, is the feature that will enhance the functionality of our apps and also the automated flows that we will create by adding some AI capabilities or artificial intelligence capabilities into it. And without even writing any code or without even writing any program, we will be able to add such AI techniques into our business applications and the flows. Since AI Builder provides us with some pre-created AI models under it, the AI models like prediction model that is going to help us in predicting the outcomes, and sometimes it also gives us say invoice processing model, which is going to be used whenever we would just like to process some PDF or invoice received, and based on the information that is stored in it, we would want to store it in our databases. So AI Builder is incorporating all such advanced level capabilities directly into our business applications and workflows without us having to write any program or code logic under it. After AI Builder, next up we have Microsoft Dataverse, which is also named as Common Data Service. So we can just say that Microsoft Dataverse is a cloud database, or I would say cloud tabular database provided under Microsoft Power Platform, so that we can link it with our Power Apps that we are creating. We can link it with the Power Automated Flows, or even the Power BI reports can also be created on top of that. So in a much simpler language, we can say that Microsoft Dataverse is the very own database for the Power Platform. Since it is a tabular database, so just like any other relational databases, like we have Excel workbook, similarly, here also we do have tables inside which the data will be stored in the form of rows and columns. So a Dataverse becomes one of the very important and the most important feature that we get in Power Platform. So now let's say suppose if we do not want to connect with any other external data source, so we can just use the Power Platform's own database as well. That's what we are calling as the Microsoft Dataverse. And since it is a cloud database, so we don't really have to worry about the security and the data governance, because it has its own robust security features that lets us manage what amount of data we are sharing to which people in the organization. That means we can broadly just control the excess of the data and can maintain the data integrity, so that some sensitive information could be preserved and can be protected, and it is not being shared to the people who are going to leak the data. And also, like I mentioned, that this is just like the any other data source. It is also something that can be connected with your Power App. You can even create the automated workflow using the Dataverse data, and also the report, Power BI report, can be created on top of this data source. Now, after Dataverse, if we move towards the third and the last feature of the Power Platform, so these are data connectors. And I think previously when I was discussing about the components of Power Platform, I have already tried to explain what the data connectors are. So basically, as we discussed, that be it your Power Automate, Power Apps, or Power BI, we can link them with any data source of our choice, be it on premises or the data sources over cloud. We can very well do that. Well, that is possible with the help of data connectors. So if we have to define what the data connectors are, so data connectors are defined as the bridge between the variety of the data sources that we have in the available platform, and the different business apps and the flow that we create using the Power Platform component. So let's say you would want to connect your Power App with a SharePoint list. So you do not have to compulsorily just rely on the Power Platform's own database, that is Dataverse. We are given full flexibility that we can link our application to the external SharePoint list as well. But first, we need to develop a data connection under the data connectors tab. So that is the reason we can say that these data connectors are helping us as a bridge to link our existing Power Platform tools with the external list of the data sources that are available. And these are possible. The example that I have tried to explain is only through the Power Apps, but the same is applicable to the Power Automate and Power BI as well. Same, we can connect our Power Automated flow and the report to the data sources that is not only just the Dataverse but the other ones. So that was all about the overall picture of our Power Platform. And now that we have talked about the data connectors, and since we are talking a lot about the data sources, so let's actually learn about what are the kind of data sources that we can get uh, to connect under the data connectors. So ideally, there are two types of data sources. We do have tabular data source, and then we have function based data sources. So if I talk about tabular data source, these are something that can store the data in the form of grid structure, or I would say table structure, and inside that table we'll have rows and columns. So a very good example of the tabular data sources, what you all might have seen, is Excel workbook. So Excel table also contains rows storing the data, and then columns stating the properties of those rows. So that's a very good example of a tabular data source. And the other example could be SQL Server data table. Your SharePoint list is also an example of a tabular data source. Then your Microsoft Dataverse that we are talking about is also an example of tabular data source that we can work with. Next up, the second category of the data source that we can find in the data connectors are function-based data sources. So basically, these data sources are something that can be accessed using some function. That means whenever we have to interact with such data sources, we will have to write a formula, or we will have to write some expression to derive the data out of it, manipulate the data, or do some calculations over it. So that could be understood as the function-based data source. However, as far as this course is concerned, we will wholly focus on the tabular data sources, through which we will be able to understand how the different Power Platform components could be created, be it your app, your workflow, or even your Power BI report. So that was about the detailed introduction for the Power Platform. Now let's shift to the next part of the module, which is where we have to learn about how to get started with the Power Platform interface with the help of environment and the solution. First of all, if I talk about the sign up process, we first have to sign up to the Power Platform. We can navigate to the sign up window by navigating to powerapps.microsoft.com portal, and this is how it looks like. However, in just a while, when I'll start with the hands on for the lab activity associated to this module, we will definitely see how that interface looks like. And here, to sign up, you can provide your login credentials that is associated with the Power Apps or Power Platform license. And once after you are going to log in, you will be lining up to the Power Apps Maker portal interface. Now, once after you have completed the signing up process, the next important thing that you need to do is the environment creation. But before we can learn about how the environments are created, we will first have to learn about what the environments are. So environments in our Power Platforms are something that we can define as the containers or the centralized repositories where we are going to store all of our Power Platform components, be it your Power Apps, your flows, your business data, and any other development that you're going to do. Environments are considered as the first step, or environment creation is considered as the first step before you can start with your Power Platform component creation. Environments could be created multiple in an organization. That means it's not always there that in your tenant or within your organization you're having only a single environment. You can have multiple environments based on the organization's size and the requirement. So let's say we have different teams in our organization. Say for sales team, we can create a different environment. For marketing people, we could have different environment, and so on. Similarly, environments are also deployed geographically. That means whenever you are creating an environment, you also have to provide a region or a location associated with it. So at times, organizations also manage the environments based on the different locations in which their branches are located. So let's say for the US location branch, they have created the other environment. For India location branch, they might have created some different environment. So these environments are basically used so as to collaborate between the team members and to equally, format and fix the power platform uh, items or the components that is going to be created in the organization. Also, one important thing that we need to understand is environment are something that gives us a way through which we can initiate a Dataverse instance. In much simpler terms, I can just say that until and unless you will not create an environment, you will not be able to access the Dataverse. So, like, let's say for an example, you are going to log into your SQL Server Studio. You are logging in to the server, and then once you are logged into your server, you create a database there. And once after the database is created, then you create tables and columns inside it. Same way here also, you first create environment, and once after the environment is created, you are going to initiate a Dataverse, which in simple terms we say that we are initiating a database. Once and after the Dataverse is initiated with the environment, we can then create tables and columns inside it. So each environment can have a single database or Dataverse database associated and not more than that. So a single environment can have either one Dataverse or no Dataverse associated to it. So now that we are now aware about what the environments are, let's also learn about the different type of the environments that could be possibly there in the organization or in the tenant. Like I have mentioned previously, that it totally depends on the organization's requirement, organization's size, that what type of environment that they would want to manage, and how many environments they would want to manage. Sometimes they manage environment based on the team, different teams that are present, and sometimes the environments are also created based on the different location branches that they are having. But sometimes the environments can also be created based on the usage of the components that is being stored into it. So, like, let's say if I talk about the first type that is mentioned here in this table is, say, production table. Now, sorry, the production environment. So, the production environment is something that is uh, basically created in the sense when we feel like that our final app is ready or our final development is completed, and now we would want to make this app available in the organization so that it could be used by anyone or everyone. So in that case, we store that app in the production environment. Uh, or in a much simpler way, we can say that this environment is created or is intended to be used whenever we have to store our work permanently. So let's say for an example, you were creating an application in by the by some developers, and once after that app was created and also tested, now we feel like the app is ready to go and ready to be live. And now if we would want to provide it, and we would want to make it available for the people to be used in the organization, then we can shift it to the production environment, which is where no modification is possible to the app that we have created. So production environment is something that we used for the final storage of the work. and it can be created by anyone who have the Power Apps license with the additional database capacity, and whosoever person will create the production environment and will be the owner of the environment will have a total control over the components and over the security of it. After production environment, next up we have default environment. Now, as the name suggests, it is the automatically created environment that we get in Power Platform. And the moment you are going to sign up to your Power Platform, it is going to be available to you. This is the first environment that is going to be available to you, exactly showing as the name of your tenant. And this environment is a very special type of environment because it is not something that could be deleted by anyone. So no one in the organization can delete this. Even no one can be able to create this in the organization. So due to this functionality or due to this very limited security control over this environment, we always try to create a separate environment for our Power Platform component. Rather than working in this default environment, we go with the creation of some separate environment. After default, next up we have sandbox environment, which is used for or I could say it is used differently as compared to production environment, because sandbox environment is something that is created for specific purpose. So like I think I have mentioned previously, say you have a sales team and you would want to create an environment only for the people or of the sales team or the sales team, so that only the people that belongs to the sales team will be able to access the components from that environment, and no other person from the organization will be able to access it. So in that case, you can create a sandbox environment for sales team. Similarly, a sandbox environment can also be created for the marketing team, your customer support team, and so on. Next up, we have trial environment. So trial environment is just the copy of the production environment only, but the only difference between the two is production environment was being used for the permanent storage of the work. However, trial environment is something that will be available only for 30 days period. And after 30 days, everything that we are having inside that environment will automatically get cleaned up, and we will not be able to retrieve it back. So that's the only difference between both of them. Now, if I talk about the usage of trial environment, so we can say that organizations usually create trial environment when they would just want to try it out or try the interface or try some specific feature of the Power Platform. So like in our scenario, as we are going to move forward with the lab activity, we are going to basically create a trial environment only, so that we can just explore through the Power Platform features. Next up, we have developer environment, and it doesn't really fits in the name that has been providing to it. It's not that we are going to create this environment only for the developer people, but it is a very special kind of environment that can be created by a person who is having a Power Apps basic license and also an additional community plan license. This is the type of environment that can only be owned by a single user. That means this environment is not going to be shared by anyone else in the organization. So whenever your requirement is that you would want to create an environment for only an individual, then in that case you can go for creation of the developer environment. Next up, and the last one that is mentioned here is the Teams environment or the Dataverse for Teams environment. So this is yet again one of the very special type of environment that can be created automatically directly from your Microsoft Teams channel. The moment you try to create a Power Apps in your Microsoft Teams, immediately an environment will get created in the backend. So we will definitely talk about the integration of Power Platform with Microsoft Teams as we are going to move forward in the course. But as of now, we can just understand that one of the type of environment is the Teams environment that can be created automatically once and after you try to create or you try to link your Power Platform to your Microsoft Teams channel. So that was all about the environments and the different types of environments. And now, like I have mentioned previously as well, that we are going to definitely look into the interface of the environment creation, and we will see how these are going to be managed. But towards the end of the module of it. But before, let's discuss few more things about the next steps that is needed to be done once and after the environment is ready. So now once the environment is ready, the next thing that we are going to do is to create a solution. Now what exactly the solution is? So solution is something that we can call as a container to store, manage and package the multiple components into it. Like you can store your table, you can store your apps, your flows, your dashboards, and many other Power Platform elements into it. Sometimes it might feel that environments and solutions are quite confusing between each other, but if we need to understand solution, so we can understand solution with a very basic example that we see and that we work with in our daily life. I hope we all are aware of the folders that we usually create in our systems. So, in folders, we can store different files. It can contain a Word document, a PDF file, an image file, say a PPT, and an EXE file. All of these files are being stored under a single folder. Now, I would want to shift this files or all the files that is stored in that folder to a certain destination or to a certain location. So rather than transferring them one by one, what I'll do, I'll just copy that entire folder and paste it to our destination location. The same purpose is being served by the solution in Power Platform. So solutions are something that is going to contain all the Power Platform components, say apps, the flows, the tables, and so on. And whenever it is being required that we need to share it to some different environment, or whenever it is being required that we would want to transfer it from one environment to other. So rather than transferring them one by one, we will just club them together and we will add them as a part of the solution, and we will just transfer the whole solution from that one environment to the destination environment. So that is the purpose of using a solution. Now, whenever we create a solution, we usually give the name to it, and then we provide a publisher. And then at times we also have to choose about the type of the solution also. Now there are ideally two types of solutions that we can create, that is managed solution and unmanaged solution. If I talk about managed solutions, so these are something that can contain the components, but when you will try to transfer them to the destination environment, then whatever components that you are storing into it, it cannot be modified by anyone or everyone residing in that environment. So let's say you have created a solution that is containing two apps and one flow to it, and now you would want, once after you have completed the development of those components, and you would want it to be transferred to some different environment, but you would want to restrict the other people to make any modifications to the apps or the flow that you have created. So in that case, you can go with the creation of a managed solution, which is going to restrict the other people in making any type of modification to the components that is being added as a part of the solution. At the same time, if we talk about the second type of solution, that is unmanaged solution, so that is completely opposite of the managed one. It is the type which is where you are not restricting the other people in making any modification to your components. Instead, you would want that the moment you are sharing the solution to the destination environment, other people should be able to modify the things and should be able to add in their developments so as to enhance the components that are the part of the solution. So it totally depends on the destination environment. If we are shifting our solution to, say, our production environment, that means we are feeling like that our final product is ready and we are going to make it live. So in that case, we can go with the managed solution. But when we are shifting our solution from one development environment to other, where we want that now, okay, we are done with our side of development, now we would want that other people or the other developers should also add in their things to it. So in that case, we can go with creating unmanaged solution in our organization or as a part of the environment. So that was about the solution creation and its type. Now it's almost the time when we have to do the lab activity, but before we do and go towards the lab activity, let's first discuss about the type of the power apps a little more in detail, because from the next module onwards we have to discuss about them in detail, and we also have to learn about how these apps are going to be created, or what is the process of creating such apps. So, previously we have discussed about the type of or the definition of the power apps, and we have discussed that power apps is a low code or no code application development platform that can help us in creating the apps for mobile or the web platforms. But when it comes to understand why do we exactly need power apps, so that's a very important question that is needed to be asked, because in our businesses we are also provided with some of the first party applications that is actually helping us in carrying out our various business processes. Like if I talk about some CRM applications or the customer relationship management application, we do have sales applications with us, okay, with which we can perform the entire sales process. We can nurture our leads and opportunities. Similarly, we do also have a customer service application as well, with which we can just provide the best possible support to our customers. So, why do we actually need these power apps? So, the answer to this question is quite easy. that whenever we would want to have a tailored experience, or whenever we would want to have a custom application fitting in the problem statement that we are facing, we will be wanting to have a platform where, without any extra effort or without any a platform where we have to write the code, we should be able to create the app in just few minutes. So let's try it, and let's try to understand it with one of the experience that I have faced previously. So there was one client of us that is basically coming from pharmaceutical background, and they were not so big firm at that time, and they were just planning to compete and increase their production in the market, so that they can just emerge as a good pharmaceutical firm, and they can increase their business. But what their problem was, their process was too slow. So basically, what happens every day, their sales executives used to visit their nearby medical stores, and they used to, gather the information from the different allotted medical stores about the different medicines on a paper form. So they used to gather the information like the name of the medicine that they want, the quantity of that medicine, and then the location of that store, then the date of delivery, and so on. And once and after that entire information is carried on a paper form, towards the end of the day, they used to submit those paper forms to the data entry team. And once and after, the data entry team of the organization will receive those forms. They will be uploading all the data to their systems and to their databases. And then after, the data analysis team can create the reports on top of that, and can come up with the conclusion that so and so medicine is being required in larger quantity and needs to be produced in much more quantity, so as to fulfill the requirements of the market. But this was very time consuming process, because the data entry team and the data analytics teams have to wait for the data to come in. So what we did was, we tried to create a power app containing two screens for their sales executives. The first screen of the app was showcasing the list of the stores the sales executives needs to visit, while the second screen was containing a form, exact same form which was earlier on a paper. So after we created that power app for their sales executive, they again used to visit to the medical store, but this time they used to rather rely on that paper form. They used to take up the information or gather the information through their mobile phones or their tablets, and they used to fulfill that forms, and there was this submit button over that form as well. And the moment they'll hit that submit button, immediately the data will be available in the databases, underlying databases, and simultaneously the data analysis team can develop the report. So with the help of the power app, we were able to uh, fasten up the business process of the pharmaceutical organization. But this is just the one scenario that I have tried to suggest where power apps could fit in. But there could be various other business challenges that we face in our day to day work life, where we want that we should have some tailored application or custom application available, but without having us to indulge a lot of human effort or a lot of time to it. So that is where power apps, being the low code or no code tool, gives the business organization a platform through which they can create apps within just few minutes, which is very easy to use. So now that we know about the importance of Power Apps, now let's learn about the type of Power Apps that could be created in our Power Platform. So there are three types of apps that could be built over here. The first one is the Canvas app. Second, we have model driven app. And lastly, we have Power Pages, which is also named as portals. So let's start with learning about each one of in detail, starting with the say Canvas app, the first category of the application. So Canvas apps are also named as low code applications, and these are the applications that will provide us with the complete flexibility of designing the app screen wise. That means just like a typical application that we use on our mobile phone or on our tablet, we are going to have multiple screens in the application, and inside each screen we might find different elements, like we can have a button, we can have some different icons, or the elements like an image and so on, with which we can interact directly. So in a much simpler way, I can define Canvas app as the application which is where you can create the user interface the way you want, and you can also indulge the user experience and the business logic to the application uh, in whichever way you would want to have it on the end user. So Canvas applications are something that is going to be giving us the functionality to connect with not only just the Microsoft Dataverse, we can also connect it with the ample amount of the data sources that is going to be available out there. Also, like I mentioned, here we have this flexibility to uh, add the business logic for the end user. So we do not really have to just rely on the existing business logic items that is available in the designer. If we would want to customize that business logic, at times we might have to write some basic formulas or some basic expressions as well. And that is the reason we are also calling Canvas app as a low code application. Since sometimes to advance the functionality, we might also write some basic Excel like expression, just like the way you write in your Excel workbook. Here also you might have to write the expressions so as to enhance the functionality. However, we do not really have to have some programming background or coding background to do that. We do not really have to learn a particular syntax to write those formulas. It's quite simple. And about those formulas and functionalities, we will definitely talk about in detail as we move forward in the course, because we have a full-fledged associated module for the Canvas app, where we are going to learn about its creation and the other elements in detail. Then after Canvas app, the next type of application that can be created in the Power Platform is model driven app. Now, it is something very much clear with its name as well, that these are the type of applications that is going to be driven by the model, or I would say the data model created and provided by our Microsoft Dataverse. Now, model driven apps are the no code applications. That means here we do not have to write any formula or any functions, just like the way we were writing in Canvas app, and due to which they were being called as low code application. Here a complete application will be created through the interface itself, through the drag and drop feature itself. And unlike Canvas app, model driven apps can only be connected to Dataverse. So in the case whenever you would want to connect your application with any of the external data source, so that is only possible in the case of Canvas app. In case of model driven app, that is not possible. Secondly, model driven apps are mainly used in the scenarios whenever your purpose is just to manage the data or to do some data collection. Moreover, if you have the requirement to interact with the data, or you have the requirement to have a customized screen for your application, then in that case, Canvas app is the best option to go with. So that is your second type of application that we can have in Power Apps. Now, if we move towards the third type of the application, so that is your portal apps, or which is now being renamed as Power Pages as well. So these are some externally facing websites that could be created by you, and it can be used internally or externally, and it can be used by anyone, either by authenticating themselves, or even they can use it anonymously as well. And this is again just like model driven app, can only be connected to your data that is being stored in your Microsoft Dataverse. So these are like, suppose if you would want to create a portal or a website for your organization containing certain pages showcasing some Dataverse data, so you can create those custom websites using these Power Pages, or I would say your portal apps. So these were the three important different types of Power Apps that you can create in your organization, in your Power Platform. But if we just have to understand about the basic differences between the Canvas app and the model driven app, because that is certainly one of the very important questions, and many times students do really have this doubt in their mind that where exactly we should go for the creation of Canvas app, and where do we exactly have to create model driven app. So if we are aware of the usage, or if we are aware of the definition and the features of both of these, then we will be able to very well understand the scenarios where the Canvas apps are going to be created and where a model driven app will be created. So, like I have already explained it previously, whenever you are wanting that you would want to have a flexible interface where you can create your own user interface UI the way you want, and you would want to inculcate the customized user experience presented to the end user, in that case you can go for Canvas application, because there the flexibility is much more. But whenever you just wanted to run the data driven design, and you just don't worry about the user interface and the user experience, in that case you can go for model driven app. Other pointer is, whenever you would want to work with any other data source apart from Microsoft Dataverse. So in that case, you can go for creation of Canvas app, because these are the type of apps that will let you connect to other external data sources freely. However, that is not possible in the case of a model driven app. If you have the requirement to connect to Microsoft Dataverse only, so in that case, the best option is to go for model driven app. And lastly, if you would want to, get the feel of using a typical application the way you use in your mobile phones, so then the best possible way is your Canvas app creation. Because in case of a model driven app, irrespective of the fact how many model driven apps you are creating, the user interface is going to look similar. Say suppose in an environment you have created 4 model driven apps, so all of these 4 model driven apps will look the same. The only difference between them would be the data the data tables from our data verse that we are feeding in. So that is the reason, if you have these much pointers known, so then in that case you will be able to very well differentiate when to go with the creation of Canvas app and when to go with the model driven app. So with this, I think we have come towards the end of the discussion regarding the Power Platform's introduction, its features, and also a detailed description about the Power Apps types. Now it's the time for us to get started with the very first lab activity of the course, which is validating the lab environment. Basically, the objective of this lab is to sign up to Power Apps, explore the Power Apps interface, and create our lab environment that we are going to use throughout, and also to develop the solution. So let's go and let's get started with it. So see you in the next recording. Thank you.